What do Tom Cruise, Jennifer Connelly, and Hugh Jackman have in common? If you guessed they were all actors, you'd be right. But they are also all inspirations behind many well-known Disney characters. See, in the past, it was very common for animators to design their characters and even their character personalities around very well-known celebrities, actors, and public figures in general. In recent days, that practice has gotten less common, mainly because advances in animation have made it way easier to design completely original characters. And also, as I pointed out in a previous video, a lot of characters today in animation are actually voiced by celebrities in the first place. So more often than not, those characters are designed from the ground up with those celebrities in mind. It's just become so common. Now, that being said, there's still a whole history of very famous characters that were based on these public figures that we know. So here are 10 of them that I found very interesting, and I hope you do too. Alright, so let's start with the most well-known example. Disney's Aladdin was inspired by Tom Cruise. This wasn't originally the case. The first inspiration for Aladdin was actually Michael J. Fox, but Disney kind of wanted a more mature look. The Michael J. Fox version was seen as boyish. So they aged him up a little bit, and they made his new inspiration a more, I guess, mature actor, who still gave off that, what's the word, hunky vibe. It worked out well. This was before the time when mainstream animation was just full of celebrities. Even though he didn't voice the character, his influence on Aladdin is still clearly seen in the design they went with. Alright, so next is another iconic Disney character. Tinkerbell was inspired by Margaret Carey, an actor and voice actress at the time that she was cast as Tinkerbell. So she wasn't anywhere near as famous as Tom Cruise was, but she was still in the public domain, so to speak. She was in a very popular sitcom. I believe that was The Ruggles, which is one of the first sitcoms ever made. And she had a lot of voice acting roles in early TV as well. Now, she was, like I said, cast as Tinkerbell. She mostly did the live-action reference, but the animators went a step further and designed the characters completely off her personality and mannerisms. The funny thing is with Tinkerbell, she's usually seen as being inspired by Marilyn Monroe, because blonde. But that's actually not the case. Margaret Carey actually became the most known for the role of Tinkerbell for decades after the movie's release. As a matter of fact, she's still alive today. She's about 93 years old, and she still appears at Disney events to sign autographs and stuff. She's still well known in the community as Tinkerbell. So Aurora was actually designed after her voice actress, the singer and actress Mary Costa. So Costa wasn't exactly entirely famous at the point that she was cast as Aurora, but she was a very well-known opera singer, and she continued to make her name for herself after Sleeping Beauty's release in 1959. Now, in this case, Costa was, like I said, Aurora's voice actress, and the animators liked her enough that they actually designed the characters based off her. So she worked very closely with them to get the mannerisms and the vocal design, I guess you could say, of the character just right. Now, in the end, Aurora doesn't really talk a lot in the movie, but if you just look at the actress and the character side by side, you can definitely tell how closely the animators stuck to Costa when they designed Aurora. By the way, Costa is still alive today. She is also, I think, 93 as well. It's pretty crazy. Alright, this is actually a very interesting one. Cruella de Vil was actually based almost completely off a very controversial public figure in the mid-20th century. Her name was Tallulah Bankhead. She was a very successful actress who was constantly in the public eye at the time of 101 Dalmatians' release. And she's a very interesting character herself. She was known for a very husky voice and erratic personality. She gained a lot of attention for her many affairs with famous men, and as it happens, women as well. She was a heavy drinker and a heavy smoker, and she abused sleeping pills. And the only reason I mention that is because she herself was actually very open about it during her own life. Now, Bankhead was from a family of very prominent conservatives. She was actually from Alabama, but she was also a very enthusiastic civil rights activist. She actually spoke out many times in favor of Truman, and he knew it. He actually invited her to his inauguration as well. So definitely she had a very interesting life. But all that aside, you can see how such an interesting personality would make a very great basis for a character as interesting as Cruella de Vil. Even Cruella's voice actor at the time based her own performance right off Bankhead. So both the voice actress and the animators, they were kind of working in tandem there. So the result is, well, I think it was a success, but in the end, I think it'd be very interesting to see a movie about Bankhead's career. Jasmine may be Arabian, but she was inspired by Jennifer Connelly, who rose to fame a few years before Aladdin in the movie Labyrinth, you know, the one with David Bowie. And in that movie, she actually played a young princess herself, which kind of, in my opinion, made it easy to use her as an influence for an animated princess. Whatever the reasoning was, the animators used her to help them design the overall character. It's funny because I have a feeling if Aladdin was originally released within the last 10 years or so, I could totally have seen Connelly voicing Jasmine. But like I mentioned before, it was way more common back then to just use these A-listers as inspirations rather than the voices themselves. So Jafar is a bit of an interesting case. He is supposedly based on Conrad Veidt, a German actor who was in a lot of very influential early cinema, like The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, and a role as Jafar in the 1940 movie The Thief of Baghdad. Now, this isn't wholly confirmed by Disney or any of the animators, but there's definitely a resemblance in the two characters. But according to the animators on the original movie, Aladdin, Jafar was actually based on Maleficent, the Disney character. So I think that was, you can actually kind of see it as you're looking between these characters. You can definitely see the inspiration and, you know, the sleekness, I guess, the sharp features present in both of them. So I believe that. I can definitely see where the Conrad Veidt theory comes in as well. Also, Conrad Veidt actually played the villain in a movie called The Man Who Laughs. His character in that movie actually became the inspiration for the Joker from the Batman. Just thought I'd throw it in there. Pocahontas was based on a couple different actresses. The first was a supermodel who was very famous at the time, named Christy Turlington. And she had these, I suppose, special exotic looks that made her a nice template for Pocahontas. She also had some unique facial features as well. But the second inspiration was actually Pocahontas' voice actress, Irene Bedard, who was, as it happens, Native American. And they used a lot of her unique look and actually also her cultural roots, of course, to give them the foundation for Pocahontas. Now, with this character, they actually didn't have much real life to go off of. The real person was only in paintings or portraits. So really, I'm paraphrasing here, but basically the animators just wanted the most aesthetically pleasing character they could have, so you can see where the two influences came in. So Flynn Rider is actually the only computer animated character in this list. Like I said, it's rare these days to have characters inspired by just one celebrity who isn't voicing them already. But Flynn is actually a funny story. So his charm and his good looks, they weren't actually based on one person in particular. They were based on a bunch of different men. So what happened was the animators actually asked a lot of the female staff in the studio to bring in their A-list crushes, and basically the animating team would combine all those inspirations, all those famous men, into one guy, Flynn Rider. And among the people that the female animators brought in were guys like Johnny Depp, Hugh Jackman, Brad Pitt, David Beckham, and the most pronounced one, according to the animators, was Gene Kelly, of all people. But the point is, in the end, the character is a whole melting pot of all these famous men. Treasure Planet didn't do so well when it first released, but over the years, it's gotten quite popular, at least online. And one of the reasons why that is because of the main character, Jim Hawkins, who it turns out was inspired by the short-lived icon James Dean, whose career mainly happened in the 1950s before he died at a very young age in 1955. So James Dean was an icon of teenage angst and social confusion, I think is the right word. So you can see where the character of Jim Hawkins comes into play. And looking at them again side by side, you can see kind of a resemblance, if not in appearance, but definitely in the overall feeling or personality of the character. Meg from Hercules was based on Barbara Stanwyck, the actress from the golden age of Hollywood, who was known for being in a lot of very successful movies. She mainly did comedies like The Lady Eve and Christmas in Connecticut, but she also did some thrillers as well, most notably Double Indemnity. She was known mainly for her roles in those comedies I mentioned, which made her a good fit for Meg, who was specifically designed off of female characters from these Golden Age comedies. The inspiration in this case, Meg was very heavily based on Stanwyck, so everything from her main appearance to her voice were modeled after the actress. Even the voice behind Meg specifically tailored her own performance to fit Stanwyck. So the inspiration, well, it paid off, but this inspiration is definitely the most pronounced of any on the list right here. And that's really all I have to say about that. I think the art of designing animated characters, it's always a challenge to have a completely original character. And I don't think the characters we've gone over in this video are hurt or diminished because they're based on real people. I think the combination of an animator's eye, a real life person, can create something similar but different. And I feel if you look at Meg or a character like Cruella, you can see how successful this combination of sources of inspiration can end up being. Now, are we losing anything by having this practice kind of die out in recent years? I don't think so, but it's just different these days, and I don't think that's good or bad. Who knows, maybe it'll come back one day. But anyway, if you did enjoy the video, please leave a like and subscribe, and yeah, I'll see you later.